This program is an overview of completing the FAFSA. We'll provide instructions and tips for sections that may be difficult to complete. After viewing this program, we hope it will help students and parents better understand how to complete the FAFSA and to complete it accurately. Remember, if you have questions, use the resources given at the end of the program. Let's begin! The FAFSA uses skip logic. This means that not all FAFSAs will have the same questions. For example, a student completing the FAFSA the first time will have questions that a student completing a renewal FAFSA will not see. Another example is a student who is age 24 or older will not have all the dependency section because the student is the age for an independent student. A few tips before getting started. If you're not sure how to answer a question, click on the question mark at the end of each question. This feature offers a detailed explanation of the question. When moving through the FAFSA, make sure you use the Next and Previous buttons near the bottom. Do not use the browser navigation arrow, which may cause you to lose information and have to start over. The free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA, is used to apply for financial aid to help students pay for college and college-related expenses. The FAFSA can be filled out and submitted at www.fafsa.gov, or you can download the My Student Aid app to complete it there. The FAFSA determines if you'll need parental information, such as your parents' marital status and tax filing information. If you're at least 24 years old or married, you will not need parental information. However, if you're a high school student or recently graduated, chances are you will need information from your parents. The FAFSA has a section that determines if parental information is needed. Okay, time to start a new FAFSA. First things first, it's best to have an FSA ID, which is your username and password when you fill out the FAFSA. That will be used to electronically sign the FAFSA and transfer some tax information from the IRS. It can also be used later to access your federal student aid records. You can create your FSA ID from the FAFSA. If parental information is needed, at least one of your parents will also need an FSA ID. Parents can create the FSA ID here as well. Once done, it's time to select the academic year. That's the year you will be in college. Now, on to the Save key. The Save key allows you to save the information you filled out so far and return to complete and submit your application. This is where you'll create a 4 to 8-digit alpha and/or number code. By the way, your Save key should not be shared unless it's shared with your parents, so they can complete the parental section of the FAFSA. Okay, you're all set to move on to the first section of the FAFSA. This first section asks for basic information. Please make sure that the name you enter is exactly the same as it appears on your Social Security card. Do not use nicknames or abbreviations. Remember, if the name you submit does not match the name on your Social Security card, there will be lengthy delays receiving or processing your federal student aid. Next, provide your email address, and be sure to check it regularly. Email will be the primary way that the Department of Education and colleges contact you. Next is student eligibility. If you're a male and completing the FAFSA for the first time, the student eligibility section will ask if you're registered with Selective Service. If you're not yet registered, you can use the FAFSA to register. You are not required to register for federal aid, but some states do require registration. In the next section, you'll be asked to enter the name, city, and state of your high school, then click Search. Select the school from the menu, then click Next. Next up is the question about school selection. This is where you'll select the colleges that you're considering attending. Returning college students, make sure you enter the college that you're returning to. You can select up to 10 colleges when you first submit the FAFSA. Later, if you need to add more, you can do so by going back to your saved FAFSA. If you would rather look at all available colleges in a given state, select a state, and the form will give you the alphabetical listing of all the colleges in that state. You can also narrow the search for colleges if you know the name of the city. Simply click on each college you'd like to attend to add it to your FAFSA. Finally, select whether you will live on campus, off campus, or with parents. The next section is called Dependency Determination. This section will determine if you need information from your parents. By the way, for the FAFSA, parents are defined as your birth or adoptive parents. You should answer questions based only on your birth or adoptive parents and on no other persons. Note that if you answer yes to any question in the dependency section, you will not need parental information. Some questions will already be answered based on previous information entered. Just a quick reminder, the FAFSA has some specific definitions, so remember, if you don't know how to answer a question, use the question mark to get a more detailed explanation. Next, parents' demographic information. This is where, if required, you'll enter information about your birth or adoptive parents. First, enter your parents' marital status. This will determine if you will need to enter information for both of your parents. If your parent is single or widowed, you will only need to enter information for that one parent. If your parents are divorced or separated, enter information for the parents that provide the most support. Typically, that's the parent you live with most. If that parent has remarried, you must also enter information for your step-parent. If your parents are married or unmarried and living together, then enter information for both parents. Enter the Social Security number for your parent or parents. If a parent doesn't have a Social Security number, enter all zeros. Household size is included in this section. The number for parents and the student will be pre-populated. For the parent or parents who you are using for the FAFSA, enter the number of your parents' other children, even if they do not live in the home, if your parents will provide more than half their support during the academic year you are applying for aid, or if they can answer no to every dependency question. Next, enter the number of other persons living in your parents' household if your parents are providing more than half their support, and will do so during the academic year you are applying for aid. Next, enter the number from the total number in the household size, other than your parents, who will be attending college at least half the time during the year you are applying for aid. It's very important to get these figures correct. Let's recap. The student and parents will be pre-populated. Add siblings that are in the house or that your parents will provide more than half their support during the year you are in college, even if they don't live in your parents' house. Also enter the number of anyone else living in your parents' house for whom your parents provide more than half their support and will do so during the year you are in college. For example, if your grandmother lives with your parents and your parents take care of her. Now on to the questions about your parents' federal income tax information. The FAFSA will tell you which year's tax information to use. Depending on your parents' tax filing status, they may be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool. This will allow some tax data to transfer from the IRS to the FAFSA, making this process much smoother and easier. The FAFSA will direct you to the IRS, but remember, the parent must have an FSA ID. If he or she doesn't have an FSA ID, they can create one here. If an FSA ID cannot be created, the information must be manually entered. Please note that your address must match the address used when their taxes were filed. From the IRS site, simply click on the Submit button. The next screen will show data that will be copied into your FAFSA. From here, check the Transfer My Tax Information box. Then, click on the Transfer Now button. Next, the Parental Financial Information section has tax information that is transferred from the IRS and additional information that must be entered, like the separate amount earned by each parent if parents who are married filed a joint return. There are additional questions about taxed and untaxed income that must be answered. Remember, if you're not sure how to answer, click the question mark near the end of the question. Additional questions may be asked, like total current balance of cash, checking, and savings accounts, and the net worth of any real property, excluding the home you're living in, and business. Read each question carefully. Next is student tax information and student financial information. This is where the student enters federal tax information if he or she worked. This is similar to the parent's tax information. Okay, we're getting close to the end now. Next, you'll receive the FAFSA summary. Review the summary very carefully. If you see an error, click on that question to go back to update your answer. Then, click on Check for Errors to get back to the summary page. At the bottom of the FAFSA summary, click on Next to get to the Sign and Submit section. This is where you and one of your parents sign the FAFSA. If the FSA ID was previously used in the FAFSA, it will not be needed here. If the FSA ID was not used, then you'll have to provide your username and password. Both student and parent will have to agree to terms by reading, then clicking on Agree. Then click on Sign FAFSA. All done? Then click Submit Now to submit the FAFSA.
By the way, if neither of your parents has a Social Security number, be sure to click on Other Options to sign and submit, and then print, sign, and mail the signature page.
Next, you'll receive the confirmation page that will list the colleges selected, the estimated family contribution, the estimated amount of a Pell Grant if eligible, and the eligible amount of a federal direct loan. The confirmation page will be emailed to the address provided in the FAFSA. If you need more information, you can check out the What Happens Next section. Some important things to remember. Complete the FAFSA as soon as possible. Never pay to have your FAFSA submitted. It's free. If you have special circumstances, talk with someone from your school or from a college, even if that college is different from the one you plan to attend. Check your email and postal mail daily, or 2 times a day. Respond to any request you get as soon as possible. If you have any questions, seek answers. For more information on completing the FAFSA and other financial aid information, go to www.studentaid.gov. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your college journey!